Hello, friends. A lot of you have asked me over YouTube and my personal email about what is my take on the Russia Ukraine war. So, friends, whatever I give you the details on my channel by means of my own videos or some of the videos via which I want to convey a particular message to you, I give you all the things that you need to understand or is of importance going forward. And over the Russia Ukraine, I've just made one video before, and I told you it's all a smoke screen. Behind the screen, they are all one. But still, some people are saying, okay, imagine if this is not the way I'm saying, if this is really a conflict that is going on between two parties, then what is my take on it? So, if you are really that much excited about it, so I decided to make a video. I'll give you both the perspectives. My perspective, as I've been saying, which is beyond 100% correct, beyond a shadow of doubt. And if this was for real, then which side would I be on? So it's a pretty straightforward thing. Okay, so first let me give you my view about what I think of this conflict if this was happening for real. So let me put this cap on to give you this perspective, and then I'll take it back on. I'll give you my original perspective. So imagine if the globalists are not pulling the strings behind the scenes. Imagine if there is no globalist elite hidden government and all this is happening for real. So what is my take on it? I'll give you some straightforward points. You let me know what you think about it. In 1962, Cuban Missile Crisis happened. You might have heard about or read about Cuban Missile Crisis. What basically happened is, in short, Cuba agreed in principle with Russia. The leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro, agreed that Russia will install their missiles on the Cuban border. Now, US President JFK at that point of time, he became hysteric and he said, no. This is potentially a safety concern for US and we will not allow this to happen. And what they did is they forcefully asked Soviet to go back, to change their decision, and they forcefully made Soviet Union not to install this missile system in Cuba, and they shelved their plan. Now, let me ask you, US don't even share the borders with Cuba. But yes, Cuba is close enough to the US homeland. So was US justified in having this security concern? Of course. If I was a US president, I would be doing the same thing as JFK did. Now, if Ukraine becomes a NATO member and NATO install nukes, at that point of time in 1962, we were just talking about missiles. But here we are talking about the modern state of the art nukes. So if Russia says, I have a security concern, so is that not a concern? Is that not a concern? And what makes the matter worse is, Cuba was not even sharing the borders with the US. But Ukraine is sharing the borders right with Russia. Imagine if this Cuban Missile Crisis was not having anything to do with installing missiles in Cuba. Suppose if it was Canada, right on the Canada-US border, or if it was Mexico, right next to US-Mexico border. Imagine how US will be reacting at that point of time. If they were so hysteric when someone is trying to install it in Cuba, which is not even sharing the borders with US. But Russia, on the other hand, they are sharing the borders with Russia. Russia is right next door to them, and their concern is not a concern. So, my friends, our world is not going to take any more of that old hypocrisy by US and West compared to the rest of the world. There are two set of rules, one for US and their allies, one for those who US does not think as their allies. This is not going to happen. We are in a multipolar world going forward, and no one is going to take any shit from anyone if it's unfair. So this is first. Then what they are saying is Ukraine is a sovereign country, is an independent country. They have the right to decide what they want for themselves. Okay, fair enough. Cuba was also a sovereign country, was an independent country at that point of time during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Cuba decided that Russia should install missile systems in their country. At that point of time, US didn't say. At that point of time, European Union didn't say. And the US puppets, like Japan and all, didn't say that Cuba is a sovereign country and they can decide for themselves. So it's very convenient to make rules for yourself. Now, again, people are blaming Russia that they didn't go the diplomatic route. Russia didn't ask Ukraine not to become a NATO member just 1 week before they started this attack. I wouldn't say invasion because this is not an invasion. It's a wrong word. It's an attack, a special military operation, as Putin is saying. He didn't say 1 week before this special military operation to Ukraine that don't do this or do that and become neutral and follow these conditions of ours or we'll be attacking you. And within a week they just attacked. Russia is doing this from very, very long time. From years and years and years. Russia has asked Germany at the time of Angela Merkel. Russia has asked France to come in between, become intermediaries and resolve this issue for good. When diplomatic things does not work up to a limit, then you have to go and take your last option on the table. This is another point. Again, remember just few weeks that Biden said Putin is a war criminal. Now this retarded President of the United States who cannot just put two sentences together. In fact, when he was addressing the Congress on this Russia-Ukraine conflict, he addressed Ukraine as Iran. Instead of Ukrainian people, he said Iranian people. So this guy is not in his right mind. And instead of saying war criminal to Putin, do you have guts to call Bush and Obama as war criminals? What? This war has started just around over a month ago? And how many people are killed? And who is responsible for the killing of those innocent Ukrainians? I want to make my stand clear. My heart goes out to the innocent Ukrainians. But who is to be blamed for this? Is it Putin or is it their leader and the EU and US? They are saying Putin is killing them, Putin is a dictator, Putin is a murderer, Putin is a butcher. That's what Biden just called Putin some days back. Now, if Putin was a butcher, he could have used, if he wanted the Ukrainian territory for his expansionist plans, or if he wanted to topple the Ukrainian government, he would have used all his state-of-the-art military equipment, done the things in 2-3 days complete. But what would have happened? Ukraine would have been destroyed. The death toll of Ukrainian people would be huge. What he is doing instead? He has made it clear that once Ukraine agrees to be neutral, once Ukraine agrees not to join NATO, he will go back. And his aim is not to topple the government. which by the way is installed by the US as their puppet government. And the leader, Zelensky, is a Zionist scum. He's not a leader, he's not a righteous leader. He has the blood of his innocent civilians on his hands. Make no mistake about it. Now, so Putin is not doing all these things. In fact, a large number of Russian soldiers have died. Why? Because Putin is doing an operation in a way that least number of civilians in Ukraine are killed. And that's a fact. If you are listening to your Western liberal news round the clock, then no one can help you. Now, coming back, this war is just happening for over a month now. And how many people are died? And for which Putin is not even responsible? Compare this to what Bush did and Obama did. Those murderers, those are the real war criminals. Carrying out 9/11 on yourself, on your own self, with the help of Saudis and Mossad, and blaming it on a terrorist sitting somewhere in the caves in Afghanistan. Now, US people, are you smoking something? Your government tells you something and you just accept it as truth. Don't you have any critical thinking? You are supposed to be the most intelligent people on the planet, considering you are an economic superpower, or were an economic superpower in the past. No more. They are saying they told you after 9/11 that someone out in the caves in Afghanistan told his fellow terrorist men to come to the US when even a bird cannot fly in that area, over Pentagon and all. Their cavemen came, supposedly, took that plane, which was the state-of-the-art plane for which even the best of the best pilots take around half a year for training. They just flew it at in exactly the manner it was supposed to be. And then the trade tower, which is built by stainless steel, fell like sand. And a lot of independent researchers, builders, they challenged the government since 2001 to come on television for live debate, and they'll prove it was an inside job. But the government won't come because they know who is the culprit here. The World Trade Center fell like sand because there were detonators underneath the building. That's altogether a separate story. But you went to a country called Afghanistan for a person who was not even involved in that attack, who was on dialysis at that point of time, I'm again saying. And you didn't go and come back. You stayed there for decades. And every day there was news that US drone killed a member of a family somewhere. You destroyed families there for decades. And Biden is not having gumption to call you war criminals and calling Putin a war criminal who is a righteous leader of his country. Then came the beauty, Obama, the pedophile Obama, adrenochrome addict. All the elites are, by the way, adrenochrome addict. What he did? 2008 he became the president. 2009 January the 20th he became the US president. And in November of 2009 he is getting the Nobel Peace Prize in Norway. What did he do? People spend their complete lives and have a great resume of achievements, and then maximum of them are not able to make it for the Nobel Prize. This guy comes in office in January of 2009, and in November 2009 he's getting the Nobel Peace Prize. And what happened after that? Remember the Arab Spring, starting from Egypt, going into Bahrain, then to Yemen, then to Libya, then to Syria. And that Syria mess is going on still today. Complete Middle East was destroyed. And you're giving that person a Nobel Peace Prize? And by the way, during Bush time, after Afghanistan, Saddam Hussein, what did he say? He said, I'm not going to sell my oil in US dollars, I'm going to sell it in euros. What did you do? Overnight, a fake story of weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein is having weapons of mass destruction. We have to destroy that person. A proper country with proper GDP, with proper rule of law. Of course, he was a dictator. He was not the perfect person out there. But he was running a country in proper shape, with proper GDP. And you destroyed that country? Why? Because you wanted to save your petrodollar. And you stayed in Iraq illegally for decades and decades. You destroyed the families there. Still, Biden would not call Bush and Obama war criminal. Remember, during the Obama presidency, when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, like Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi said, "I will not be selling my oil in dollars. I will be selling my oil in gold this time." You armed the rebels in his country and they stampeded him. You showed it on television across your news stations, not just US but the entire West. The rebels in Libya were stampeding their leader, and all the blood was coming out of his face, and he he took his last breath. And after that, when he died, remember Hillary Clinton, that satanic evil lady, again a pedophile, again an adrenochrome addict. She came to a news television in an interview and she was laughing like a devil, and what she said, "We came, we saw, he died." And she laughed like a Satan.
That is the land of unconfirmed reports.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
No, I'm sure it did.
Let me tell you, karma is like a boomerang. It will come and it will destroy you as a country. Individuals have karma, the countries have a collective karma. And the negative karma's pot of the US is almost full. I'm telling you. A yogi is telling you, make no mistake about it. Remember, like they toppled the government in Egypt, they toppled the government in Libya, they created mess everywhere. In Syria also they wanted to do the same thing. Now Russia told, this is enough. Enough is enough. Syria is our ally. Any attack on Syria will be an attack on Russia. And they installed all their weapons there. Now what they do? If in a country, government forces and rebel forces are fighting each other, it's a mess everywhere. You don't know which side is firing what, which side is using which weapons. Now Syria, chemical weapons were used. And chemical weapons were used on rebels. Now does this prove that Bashar al-Assad, the leader, used the chemical weapons on his citizens? It's all by the playbook of CIA. CIA has this playbook everywhere. You go back into the history. When that mess is going on, they give the chemical weapons or biological weapons or whatever, in this case chemical weapons, to the rebels, ask them to put it on normal citizens, killed them, and then said this chemical weapons is used by Bashar al-Assad on his citizens, and we have to take a military action. Now exactly the same thing they are saying to Russia. First they said you are using vacuum bombs a month back when this started. this operation started, they said you are using vacuum bombs, which is not good. I don't even know what vacuum bombs is, but still. Then they said there's a huge probability that Putin will use chemical weapons against the Ukrainians. And that's a red line, what Biden said. Why would Putin use chemical weapons? Why would Putin use? He don't even want. He can use his normal weaponry. He's not even using even 10% of those of his military capabilities, just for the sake of normal Ukrainian citizens, normal Ukrainian people. He want least number of people to be killed. US instead is not talking about anything what Russians have found out in Ukraine, and that is the US Pentagon run biological program there with multiple biological labs there working on different pathogens. US has not said a word about that. What US just said, US intelligence says there was no such program and hence we expose the Russian rumors. So convenient for the US, right? If someone is having some proof against the US, they just say, oh, US intelligence has come forward and told we are not working on this, hence, end of the story. However, if US says something to, say for example, Russians or someone else, if US would have said, okay, Russians were running these labs in Ukraine. Imagine if Russia said, the Russian intelligence says there were no such labs being run by the Russian government, hence we expose the US claim. Would that be sufficient? But no one in the world is having balls. I ask you the EU leaders, I ask you the Asian leaders, I ask you all on the US side and not on the US side to have the balls and ask US if this is the proof that Russia is giving, prove that this was wrong. Unbelievable. Next, SWIFT system. US is having some problem with Russia? No problem. No problem. You don't want to do any trade or any business with Russians? No problem. That's your country. You make the decisions. But who the hell gave you the right that Russia should be kicked out of the SWIFT system? Is it a copyright, a patent of US? Is it a patent of EU? Or is it a patent of those G7 advanced developed countries? You didn't even consult with China, which is having 1.3 billion people in the world as their population. You didn't even consult India, having 1.2 billion people again. You small countries, just because you are developed countries, you came together and you can decide anything about anyone. You can put any sanctions on anyone. You can remove sanctions from anyone. But that is separate. You do your sanctions whatever you want. But you cannot ask other countries that you must obey the sanctions that we are putting on Russia. It's your problem. And SWIFT is not your copyright. You cannot decide who should be in SWIFT and who should be not. And that is the last nail in the coffin for the US. Going forward, Russia is not going to say take us back in the SWIFT system. Russia is not going to tell to the EU that remove all the sanctions that you put on us. They are going forward with this. They are coming up with these alternatives. And the alternatives are going to come. Now Russia is saying to India, we will sell you oil at $35 discount to the market price. And they are exploring a rupee and ruble kind of payment system outside of SWIFT. Now what is US saying? US is pressurizing India, you should not do this. Australian Prime Minister met Indian Prime Minister, you should not do this. Japanese Prime Minister came to India, you should not do this. Australian Prime Minister, Japanese Prime Minister tried their best that Indian Prime Minister just speak one sentence out of his mouth criticizing Russia. He didn't do. And I appreciate him for that. There are very few things I appreciate the Indian government. This is the stand that the Indian government has taken. I'm proud of them. Who the hell is US and the West to say that you don't buy the oil from Russians? US can say this. US is energy independent. They have their own oil. They have their everything. They're not just using their oil because they have this for future reserves. So they can do it. Indian economy will go for a complete tailspin. EU, they've put all the sanctions of Russia, all the sanctions on Russia, but gas they've excluded from the sanctions. Why? Because they're dependent. 40% of their gas is coming via Russia. But to India, they're lecturing, then don't buy oil from Russia. How, like, you cannot stop laughing because every day they break the previous record of showing the height of hypocrisy. Now, one last point and one final point. During the Indian great battle of Mahabharata, where Shri Krishna, the Lord himself, the Avatar himself, came from Param Brahman embodied in human body. He was the mediator between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Now, Pandavas were 5 brothers, Kauravas were 100 brothers. Pandavas were the righteous kings of that kingdom called Hastinapur because they were the sons of the elder brother. However, on this side, those 100 brothers led by Duryodhan were not the righteous kings of the land, right? Now, Shri Krishna, he was a mediator, he was God himself. Putan is a mere mortal here, my friends. Shri Krishna, God himself, he wanted to avoid this war because millions, thousands and thousands would be dying from the armies of both the sides. He went as a mediator to the Kaurava side and said, you have to give the kingdom back to them because they are the righteous kings based on the rules of the land at that point of time. They disagreed. Krishna went back, again he came, and see the kind of flexibility the Lord showed, the extent to which he wanted to avoid the war. He asked the Kauravas, okay, forget about giving the kingdom. At least give these 5 brothers one village each. One village each. And they will be happy with this and there will be no war. What the Kauravas said, we will not even give them the land equal to the tip of the needle. Forget about village. Then Krishna went back to the Pandavas and said, this is the maximum we could try. This is the maximum we could lower our demands. Still, if they are not agreeing, we have to go to war. War is the last option on the table, but it's not off the table. He said, if we don't fight for this righteous thing that is yours, future generations will never fight for something that is righteous. And that's what in the Hindu Sanatana Dharma is called Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. We have to fight for the Dharma, we have to fight for the righteous thing. And then the battle happened of both the sides. And Krishna made it clear to the Pandavas, don't be pleased that me, the Lord God, is on your side. I'm not on your side because I like you or I hate the Kauravas. Kauravas are equal to me as you. If they were on the righteous side, I would be on their side. So I'm not on your side because I like you. I'm on your side because you are the side of dharma. You're the side of the righteousness. Now here, innocent Ukrainians are killed, but who's responsible for all this? Putin is not responsible. It's the Ukrainians who, the leader, the dumb leader of Ukraine who's responsible for all this. And the US and EU. Last point. The West always say that Putin is a dictator and he's invading Ukraine now. And he's having his expansionist plans. Who is having expansionist plans here? If he wanted Ukraine, if he wanted Georgia back in 2008 when he did a special military operation in Georgia as well, like he did in Crimea in Ukraine a few years back, he would have taken the complete country. But he did the operation, he went back. On the other hand, NATO, there should be a limit to your expansionism, right? Who is expansionist here? NATO. They started when NATO started. It was the members were 12 countries, and now it's 30 countries, 30. So we're expanding, 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 expanding. There should be a limit, right? You are coming east. You are coming right into the nose of Russia. And what Russia says? Stop. This is a red line. Give us legal binding guarantees that you won't expand more on the eastern side. You won't expand to the east, and you won't take Ukraine as your member. And the same thing is going to come in the near future for Georgia as well, if this thing is not resolved. So who is becoming an expansionist here? There should be a limit, right? You cannot have all the countries as your members one by one by one by one by one, and you just suffocate and choke all the rest of the countries geographically. So this was my take. If all these things is happening for real, now I take off my cap, and now let's come back to senses, my friends. The elites of the world would not be in control of this planet for centuries and centuries if all of this is not a game. You go back to World War One, everything was a game. Okay, World War One, which all countries were involved in World War One? Again, Russia. But who created the plan of World War One? Many decades in advance. Albert Pike, the head of the Freemasonry. World War Two again happened in the same way as he predicted, and the same objectives were achieved. And the final World War which Albert Pike planned, there were three world wars which he planned initially, and the third world war is also going to happen, but it's not the right time right now. I told you that war will be happening somewhere from the end of 2024 to complete 2025 to the start of 2026, based on what I'm getting from the universe. You want to believe? It's great. You don't want to believe? Great. I'm just putting it out there. That would be the real world war. That again would be planned. And what is happening right now is again all planned theater. Now, it looks so real. It looks so real as if both the sides are really fighting with each other. And that's the beauty. If it didn't look real, these elites would not be in control of the planet as of now. And US, if this all was not planned, US is not so dumb that they will take someone out of SWIFT system so that they go to a different system and the complete petrodollar and complete dollar dominance is destroyed. US is doing this as per the playbook. Russia is doing this as per the playbook. They have to destroy the US dollar, before they can bring their own one world currency, as I'm saying, one world government, as I'm saying. And finally, after the alien invasion, the one world religion, which by the way, they won't be able to pull through because the help from the universe will come before that. I'm telling you again and again. So these are the things, my friend. These are the things I wanted to share with all of you. Now, in all the videos I've been telling for the last 1 year, 1.5 years to you friends, I'm telling again and again, world war will happen, but before that there will be acute food shortages and there will be acute power shortages. Power shortages because of the global cyber attacks, global cyber pandemic will be carried out compared to the pandemic that started from 2020 and will keep on continuing. I told you that mystery juice that they are inserting, it will not stop at 1 or 2 doses. Number third will come, number fourth shot will come, number fifth, number sixth, to infinity. Because they have to capture your soul. And to capture your soul, they have to capture your DNA. They have to destroy your DNA. They have to recode your DNA. So, a lot of my beloved subscribers, I appreciate when you ask me, create this a video about what's your perspective on this particular thing or this particular geopolitical event. I'm happy to do that. But that is not important. Right now, the time is very, very less. What is important is for you to work on yourself, go inside. That's the only thing that is going to save you. Plus, do whatever you can in your right to save your DNA from tampering. That is the only thing that is connecting you with the divine. That is the seed of God, the seed of Parampram, the seed of divinity in yourself. If that is changed or tempered, your connection via your antenna with the cosmos will be destroyed for good. And that's what is happening. I also have a very not so good news for all of you. I wanted to make a separate video on this, but since I'm making a video, let's discuss that as well. They have come up with a technology on which these globalists were working for past many decades, and that is going forward. They don't even need to forcefully put that inside you. That mystery juice, they don't even need to put that inside you. They have created a technology where all those mRNA can be put into the fruits and vegetables that you eat. So you just eat your daily salad with your meals and you are taking that mRNA vaccine and that's getting inside of you. That kind of food is soon coming. That's why last year Bill Gates was buying farmland across the US like crazy. If you just Google who is the largest owner of the farmland in the US, it's Bill Gates. Last year he just bought like crazy for tens and billions of dollars. And it's not just his on a personal capacity, of course. And they will create artificial food shortages, artificial power shortages. They won't they will cut off your access to healthy seeds, and then their owned, their controlled farmland across the world will be growing these mRNA food having this mRNA vaccine inside of it, and you will be eating that, and then the graphene oxide will be going inside of you, and you will be tracked 24/7. Your DNA will be tempered. Your hormones or emotions will be artificially controlled. Whoever don't agree with what the government has to say, either they'll be dying of suicides, or their body organs will be failing, or they'll be suddenly going into depression, all those sort of things. And a lot of you people might be seeing, okay, when I say you'll be controlled via 5G and all those things that are inside your body will be controlled via 5G. So in India, 5G is still not rolled out. In that country, 5G is still not rolled out. This, that. Are you crazy? Is the globalist planning to control you via individual carrier, the, the telecom operators of particular countries? I'll give you a hint. Starlink, Tesla. A lot of people like Tesla. A lot of people like Elon Musk. He's very good. On the frontal side, he's very good. But on the back side, who has made him to grow? Who has made him to get the technology in a few years when NASA even could not put the technology out there? And that Starlink systems out there, they are not going to take any permission from the governments for tracking you. That thing that is going inside you is compatible with those Starlink satellites out there, and they are tracking you everywhere you go. You go in remote mountains, anywhere in Africa, you go anywhere across the world, they are tracking you via that. So don't think that you're in your particular country 5G is still not rolled out, so you are safe as of now. No, you are not. Understand the big picture. Time is short, friends. Go inside, meditate, raise your frequency, raise your consciousness, otherwise, you will not be able to make it. Raise your consciousness, become the army of God. Because the battle that is going to happen between the good and evil would be an equal battle. The evil side is equally powerful, friends. So we have to be on God's side, and we have to assist, we have to help God in all this battle that is going to take place in the upper realms of reality, the astral world, the causal world. It will come to the physical world as well, but we have to help Him, and we can help the positive side by raising our consciousness, by raising our frequency. That's the best way we can help God. And when things, when circumstances will come to a level when we cannot take it anymore, the help will come. The help will come, friends. And everything is going to happen within this decade. So while the circumstances in the world are still not going downhill to a level where you cannot concentrate, use this time window. Use this time window to meditate. Meditate for as many hours as you can at a stretch. Go within your spine. Go within that battleground within your body. Like Mahabharata that happened outside, there is Mahabharata every time that is going on inside of body, and that is within the spine, between prana and apana, between the downward force and an upward force, upward divine force and downward satanic force. 24/7 a battle is going on. Win that battle. Become like Arjun. Believe in God. Go inside that spine and come on the other side by raising all your chakras in your kundalini and attaining moksha. Clear all those karmic patterns inside of your spine, in your causal body. The time is now. I will be creating more and more and more and more videos about the spiritual stuff, friends, going forward. The time is coming when 99% of the population, friends, will not even know what is happening. Their soul will be, their soul will shiver, friends, whatever they'll see what is coming down the road. And you, friends, are here for a reason, because God is trying to tell you something via me. I'm no one. I'm no one. It's just God Almighty that is doing everything. He's in control. If you're hearing something via someone like me, we are just instruments. And nothing is coincidence. You just didn't come on this channel just as a coincidence. The universe wanted to give a particular message to you, wanted to give some knowledge to you. So that when the time comes, your soul cannot say, I didn't know God. But it's your free will. What you do of this information is solely based on you. So, as as Swami Vivekananda said, arise, awake, and stop not until the goal is reached. So, arise, awake, and stop not until your goal is reached, and your goal has to be self enlightenment. Your goal has to be getting free of this karma and hence the cycle of life and death, and become free, become a Jivan Mukt, become a liberated soul, so that you don't have to come back again. That's it from my side, friends. Have a great day. I love you all. Bye for now.